Let's talk about the real issue today. When a woman distances herself from you and starts ignoring you, what should you actually do? Not what your emotions tell you to do, not what your friends tell you to do, but what actually works. Welcome back to the channel, gentlemen. This is a situation almost every man has faced. She was consistent, she was warm, she was engaged. Then suddenly, shorter replies, slower responses, less enthusiasm, or worse, complete silence. And your mind starts racing. Did I mess up? Is there another guy? Is she losing interest? Should I text more? Should I confront her? Here's the controversial truth. The moment a woman distances herself is the moment most men destroy their position. They panic, they overtext, they demand answers, they try to force clarity, and in doing that, they push her even further away. When a woman creates space, your reaction determines everything. Not her silence, your reaction. Today, I'm going to break down exactly what you should do when she distances herself and ignores you. Not dramatic moves, not manipulative tricks, just controlled, disciplined responses that protect your value and often flip the dynamic completely. This is about emotional strength. This is about self-control. And most importantly, this is about understanding female psychology instead of reacting blindly. If you've ever felt that sting of being ignored, this is for you. Let's get into it. 1. Do not chase. When she distances herself from you, the first thing you will feel is urgency, an urge to fix it, an urge to close the gap, an urge to send that extra text just to make sure everything is okay. That instinct feels natural, but most of the time, it's the exact wrong move. The moment you sense her pulling back, your value is being tested, not by her words, but by your reaction. If you immediately chase, you communicate something without saying it. I'm afraid to lose you. And fear is not attractive. Strength is. When a woman creates space, whether intentionally or emotionally, your job is not to invade that space. Your job is to stay centered. Chasing doesn't create closeness. It creates pressure, and pressure pushes people further away. Think about it. If she's already giving shorter replies or taking longer to respond, what message does it send when you double text? When you call repeatedly? When you demand to know what changed? It tells her that her withdrawal controls you, that her silence dictates your emotional stability, and once that dynamic is established, it's very hard to reverse. Here's the controversial truth. Sometimes distance is temporary curiosity, but when you chase, you turn temporary distance into permanent detachment, because now she doesn't just feel space, she feels pressure. The strongest position you can take is calm restraint, not ignoring her to punish her, not playing games, just reducing your effort to match reality. If she replies late, you don't reward that with instant enthusiasm. If she goes quiet, you don't beg for attention. You let the silence exist. You let her feel what it's like when you're not overextending yourself. That silence protects your dignity, and dignity is powerful. Gentlemen, understand this clearly. When you chase someone who is pulling away, you confirm that they are the prize and you are the pursuer. But when you stay composed and refuse to scramble for validation, you shift the frame. You show that you value connection, but not at the cost of your self-respect. And that shift alone can change everything. 2. Mirror. Her energy. When she starts distancing herself, one of the smartest things you can do is mirror her energy, not to be petty, not to play games, but to restore balance. If she's replying with short messages, you reply with short messages. If she's taking hours to respond, you don't rush to answer in seconds. If she's investing less, you invest less. Simple. Here's where most men go wrong. They overcompensate. She pulls back a little and they lean in twice as hard. She sends one-word replies and they send paragraphs. She delays responding and they reply instantly the moment her message arrives. That imbalance lowers your value fast. Why? Because it communicates that you're trying to earn attention that should be mutual. When energy is uneven, attraction suffers. Mirroring her energy sends a different message. It says, I notice the shift and I'm adjusting accordingly. That adjustment shows emotional awareness. It shows you're not blindly chasing. It shows you're responding to reality instead of reacting to fear. And here's the controversial truth. When you stop overgiving, she becomes more aware of her own level of effort. If she sees that her low investment is being met with the same level, she now has a choice. Either she increases her effort to rebuild the connection or she lets it fade. But at least now the dynamic is honest. When you keep overextending yourself while she's withdrawing, you protect her from feeling the consequences of her distance. She never feels the gap because you're constantly filling it. Mirroring changes that. It allows her to experience the natural result of her reduced energy. This is not about manipulation. It's about self-respect. You're not punishing her, you're matching her. There's a big difference. And emotionally intelligent women recognize that difference. They notice when a man adjusts calmly instead of reacting dramatically. Gentlemen, balance is attractive. Stability is attractive. When you mirror her energy without bitterness, you show that you're in control of yourself. You're not desperate for engagement. You're willing to meet her where she stands, but you're not going to carry the entire interaction alone. And that balanced response can either reset the connection or reveal that it was fading anyway. Either way, you win because you kept your standards intact. 3. Shift focus to yourself. When she distances herself, your mind will try to make her the center of everything. You'll replay conversations. You'll analyze her tone. You'll check her last scene. You'll read into every small detail. That mental spiral feels automatic. But here's the truth. The more you obsess over her distance, the weaker you become emotionally, and women can feel that shift. When a woman pulls back, the most powerful move you can make is to shift focus back to yourself. Not as a performance, not to make her jealous, but to regain your center. Go harder in the gym, tighten up your routine, lock in on work, spend time building skills, reconnect with friends, strengthen areas of your life that don't depend on her attention. Why? Because confidence grows when your world is bigger than one person's validation. If your mood rises and falls based on her replies, you've already handed over control. That's not attractive. That's dependency. Here's the controversial truth. Sometimes a woman distances herself to see if you collapse. Not consciously in a manipulative way, but subconsciously. She wants to see if your identity is solid or if it's wrapped around her presence. When you stay productive, disciplined, and emotionally steady, you communicate strength without saying a word. You show that your life continues whether she engages or not. That kind of independence changes how you're perceived. Instead of being the man waiting for her next message, you become the man building momentum, and momentum is attractive. Now be careful. This isn't about pretending not to care. It's about genuinely caring more about your growth than about chasing clarity from someone who's already pulling away. When you invest in yourself, two things happen. First, you feel stronger regardless of what she decides. Second, she notices the shift in your energy. You're less reactive, less anxious, less available on demand. That stability can reignite respect, and even if it doesn't, you've improved yourself in the process. Gentlemen, your focus is your power. When she distances herself, don't shrink your world around her silence. Expand your world beyond it. That's how you maintain value. That's how you stay grounded. And that's how you ensure that no matter what she chooses, you come out stronger. 4. Stop seeking immediate answers. When she distances herself, your mind demands clarity. You want to ask, what's wrong? Did I do something? Why are you acting different? That urge feels logical. You think if you just get the answer, you'll feel better. But here's the reality most men ignore. When a woman is already pulling away, demanding immediate explanations usually makes things worse. Why? Because distance often comes from low emotional investment, confusion, or overwhelm. When you pressure someone who is already unsure, you don't create clarity. You create resistance. She may not even fully understand why she's distancing herself yet. Attraction can fluctuate. Emotions can shift. Sometimes she just needs space to process. When you rush in asking for answers, you force her to take a position before she's ready. And when people are pressured to choose too quickly, they often choose distance. Here's the controversial truth. Sometimes the need for immediate answers is more about your anxiety than about the relationship. You want reassurance, you want control, you want certainty. But strength is being able to tolerate uncertainty without falling apart. If she wants to explain, she will. If she values the connection, she will initiate that conversation when she feels ready. But when you chase clarity while she's withdrawing, you risk looking emotionally unstable. And instability kills attraction fast. Now, this doesn't mean you never communicate. It means timing matters. There's a difference between addressing patterns calmly after consistency and reacting impulsively the moment you feel ignored. Emotional discipline means observing first, speaking later. When you hold your composure and don't immediately demand explanations, you shift the dynamic. You show that you're not desperate for validation. You show that your emotional state doesn't collapse under uncertainty, and that steadiness creates respect. Gentlemen, understand this clearly. Not every shift needs an interrogation. Sometimes silence reveals more than conversation ever could. If she continues distancing herself over time, that's your answer. If she circles back and re-engages, that's also your answer. But when you resist the urge to force clarity, you protect your value. And protecting your value is more important than satisfying temporary anxiety. 5. Let her feel the gap. When a woman distances herself, most men rush to close the space. They send another message. They check in again. They try to keep the conversation alive at all costs. But if you're always filling the silence, she never actually experiences your absence. And that's a problem. When someone pulls back, the most powerful move is often to let the gap exist. Let the conversation slow down. Let the silence stretch. Let her feel what it's like when you're not overextending yourself. This is not about playing games. It's about allowing reality to unfold naturally. If you were always the one initiating, always the one carrying the interaction, she may not even realize how much effort you were putting in. Your constant presence masked the imbalance. When you step back, that imbalance becomes visible. Here's the controversial truth. People rarely appreciate what they never have to miss. If you're constantly available, constantly checking in, constantly maintaining the connection, she doesn't feel the weight of losing you. She just feels comfortable, and comfort without effort can slowly lower attraction. But when you allow space, calm, controlled space, something shifts. She may start wondering why you're not reaching out. She may notice that the energy has changed. She may feel the absence of your consistency, and that awareness can trigger reflection. Now, this only works if your silence is stable, not passive-aggressive, not dramatic, not designed to punish, just quiet strength. If you disappear angrily, it looks like insecurity. If you step back confidently, it looks like self-respect. There's a huge difference. Gentlemen, when you let her feel the gap, you're giving her the opportunity to invest. If she values you, she'll close the distance. If she doesn't, the silence will expose that too. Either way, you gain clarity without sacrificing your dignity. Stop trying to rescue every fading interaction. Sometimes the strongest move is to stop over-functioning and allow the natural consequences of her distance to play out. Because when she truly feels what life is like without your effort, that's when her real level of interest reveals itself. 6. Observe, don't assume. When she distances herself, your mind will try to fill in the blanks immediately. There's another guy. She lost interest. I messed everything up. Those thoughts come fast, and they feel real, but they're still assumptions. And reacting to assumptions is one of the quickest ways to destroy your position. Emotional maturity means pausing before you react. Instead of jumping to conclusions, start observing patterns. Is her energy low only with you, or is she stressed in general? Has she been consistent with the distance, or is it occasional? Did something specific change before her behavior shifted? Observation keeps you grounded in facts instead of fear. And fear-based reactions are easy to spot. When a man assumes the worst, he becomes tense, defensive, needy, accusatory. Even subtle shifts in tone reveal insecurity, and insecurity pushes people further away. Here's the controversial truth. Sometimes men sabotage connections not because she lost interest, but because they assumed she did and acted accordingly. They confront too aggressively. They accuse without evidence. They emotionally withdraw in a dramatic way, all because they let imagination take control. When you observe instead of assume, you stay powerful. You gather information calmly. You let behavior speak over time. Patterns tell the truth far louder than one or two slow replies. This doesn't mean you ignore red flags. It means you don't invent them. There's a difference. If her distance becomes consistent and intentional, that's clarity. If it's temporary and situational, reacting dramatically would have made it worse. Gentlemen, your strength shows in how you handle uncertainty. Anyone can stay calm when everything feels secure. But when communication shifts, that's when your mindset is tested. If you remain composed, you communicate confidence. You show that you don't crumble under pressure. And confidence creates space for things to either correct themselves or reveal their true direction. Either way, you win because you responded with control instead of panic. Remember this: assumptions create unnecessary damage. Observation creates clarity. And clarity, handled calmly, protects your value every time. 7. Be ready to walk away. Now we get to the part most men avoid. When she distances herself and continues ignoring you despite your calm, balanced response, you must be ready to walk away. Not threaten, not announce it dramatically, not post indirect messages, just mentally detach and move forward. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If someone consistently shows low investment, that is your answer. You don't need a speech. You don't need a final explanation. Repeated behavior is clarity. And when you keep trying to revive something that's fading, you slowly erode your own value. A lot of men stay because they're afraid to lose the connection. They think if they just try a little harder, wait a little longer, adjust a little more, things will turn around. Sometimes they do. But often, the longer you tolerate being ignored, the more you train her to see that you'll accept minimal effort. That dynamic is dangerous. Here's the controversial truth. The moment you're genuinely okay with losing her is the moment you become most attractive. Why? Because detachment removes fear, and when fear is gone, your behavior changes. You stop negotiating for attention. You stop analyzing every message. You stop trying to convince her to choose you. You simply observe, decide, and move accordingly. That calm willingness to walk away communicates high self-worth. It says, I value connection, but I value myself more. And that mindset changes everything. Now, walking away doesn't mean you're angry. It doesn't mean you hate her. It means you recognize when effort is no longer mutual. If she circles back with genuine interest, you can reassess from a position of strength. But if she doesn't, you haven't wasted months chasing someone who already checked out. Gentlemen, standards are not about controlling others. They're about controlling what you tolerate. If you're not prepared to lose someone who consistently distances themselves, you will always operate from fear. And fear leads to weak decisions. Be strong enough to accept reality. Be disciplined enough to step back when necessary. Because sometimes the most powerful message you can send is silence followed by forward movement. Let me end this with something very controversial. When a woman distances herself from you, she's not just creating space, she's revealing your level of self-respect. Most men think the moment she pulls away is the moment to fight harder, to prove more, to text more. But in reality, that's the moment your discipline is tested. Throughout this video, we talked about not chasing, mirroring her energy, shifting focus back to yourself, not demanding immediate answers, letting her feel the gap, observing instead of assuming, and finally, being ready to walk away. Notice something. None of these steps involve begging. None of them involve manipulation. None of them involve emotional outbursts. They all require control. And here's the hard truth. The man who cannot handle distance will always be controlled by it. If her silence makes you panic, you hand over your power instantly. But if her silence makes you sharper, calmer, more focused, you win regardless of the outcome. Because now you're operating from strength, not fear. So here's my question to you. What did you do the last time a woman distanced herself from you? Did you chase? Did you overthink? Or did you stay grounded and let your actions speak? Comment below and share your experience. I read these stories. I connect with you through them. This isn't just about women pulling away. It's about you becoming the kind of man who doesn't lose himself when they do. And once you reach that level, distance stops being a threat and starts becoming clarity.